Good morning. This is Beaty-Coffey. That was my shopping list. My birds are out of birdseed. My sparrows are very sad. I've got to get to the store. I'm reading from the Brownings, the letters right now. So this is still poetry, forever truth. What a poet experiences, and this is in 1845. What a poet experiences is not what they always write. And that's because we, poets indeed, and if I may admit that I realize that Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning and I share a kindred spirit with empathy. In empathy, it's I see a heavenly door, and so therefore I bring Judah into this because they're Judah as well, but in the 1800s, and so there are a few of us in the midst of Judah who can form the spirit moving forward into forever of what Judah love actually defines of goodness and greatness worldwide. Earth, we agree with the earth. It isn't the other way around. The earth is very powerful. I want to say that in my life song, I have thought about this for quite some time internally without writing it, but I want to say that therefore I will write it within this series of thoughts having to do with the kindred spirit of Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Browning. I find that the earth is at times father and is at times mother. And I think we do a great disservice to the balance of creation to say only Mother Earth. I think where a distinction should be made for the sake of understanding of generations in love messages is the moon is girl, the sun is boy. How I spell that, and I have very good physical, as in a road around me, very physical, good reasons to spell boy, B-O-I. And if you'll notice in the English language, English alphabet, there are the 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and I is in the middle. Y is only sometimes a vowel in our language. Well, the sun and the moon are forever in a day and do have power of controlling tides, of bringing clean energy, of overseeing our details in the choices we make of dwelling, all of us. And we're okay with that. We know we need to not be foe to the sun and the moon. I think that is appropriate. And deep in my Judah spirit, I say that is appropriate. So where for instance, Robert Browning, you are going to get the sun. Now, sometimes it's going to be the sunset or the sunrise, and sometimes it's going to be midday with him. And I've read his poetry that is midday, and it's like, woo! Read that again and take a step back from it. That is appropriate to take truth, which is flowing through us, to bring greatness and goodness out and allow of our own free will, because of how we're spending our time. If we're spending our time reading some, listening to good music, things like that, it's a good process. And so I think I want this to be a guiding force, these precepts. So I will do the artwork carefully and be privileged. I'm going to read 2 sections that Elizabeth is saying to Robert Browning. And this across time is something that there is a clash of beautiful people. And I've had to ask forgiveness for being too hard on people, but I've also had to distance people who are too hard on me. Always expecting too much, always, whether it be emotional, not understanding physically how much work I was left with because of attitudes of people around me, not even caring about my emotions when it came to things like my disinheritance. Now, perhaps they could say, couldn't care about it. Perhaps they could, but you have a responsibility to nurture the sun and the moon, and I'm a very definite, strong force of the moon goddess. It's been seen over and over my entire life, not just my married life, not just my mothering life, my entire life. I have divine appointment after divine appointment after divine appointment, and it's because I'm a very strong representation of the moon goddess, and I am not the only one, I will grant you that. But when people come around me, there is either a reverence or there is a foolish yet determined arrogance. Pick her apart. I no longer talk to those people, and I have a very, very strong sun god, as it were, the corn god in paganism, protecting me. Not to mention Michael. Not to mention Lucifer. I can tell you exactly where that's coming from. And I've already got it on a blog. See you around. I'm just kidding. They're not letting anything of the Aramanic powers around me anymore. Now, back to the Brownings. This is 2 letters. There will be a part 2 from the second letter. Actually, there will be a parts 1 and 2 that I marked some time ago is one part. So the part 2, let me correct it here so that I don't forget. Dadgum, I don't have my art stuff out. Part 2 and part 3 is where I came through with the question, is there any actual love and patriarchy? And I've already been through that process. And I have a very painful notation in this particular poem. On October 26th, 2022. And I don't know who's going to actually inherit this book. This one is full of extremely providential free will truth. And people don't like providential free will truth. because then they're going to have to change. And I don't know many people that are willing to change with the times, to be in unison with the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth core. And if you're reading along with me about the work of Archangel Michael and the Christ, the Golgotha mystery, if you're reading along with me, you're going to find out that the earth, that nature, in all capitals, is a big deal in your life and will break you or not. It is your free will choice. Okay. So here's the first part, is a comparison of two thoughts to show something about the strength, nay, the absolute power, raw yet disciplined, loving, evolving, reincarnating around us, moon goddess power. Though it costs us in our inner spirit. And if there's one thing Beaty-Coffey's going to do, it's make sure you know so you can stop using true love. And join us to nurture, to commiserate, to be there, to dwell. Let the others go. Let the others go. This is a Sunday, July 27th, 1845, that she wrote to Robert Browning. I wrote so much yesterday and then went out, not knowing very well how to speak or how to be silent. Is it better today? Of some expressions of yours and of your interest in me, which are deeply affecting to my feelings. A little bit of grammar here. Affecting, A-F-F-E-C-T-I-N-G, not the E-F-F-E-C-T-I-N-G. Okay. Whatever else remains to be said of them, and you know that you make great mistakes. Of fennel for hemlock, of 4 o'clocks for 5 o'clocks, and of other things of more consequence, one for another, and may not be quite right besides as to my getting well, quote unquote, if I please. Which reminds me a little of what Papa says sometimes when he comes into this room unexpectedly and convicts me of having dry toast for dinner and declares angrily that obstinacy and dry toast have brought me to my present condition. And that if I pleased to have porter and beefsteaks instead, I should be as well as ever I was in a month. But where's the need of talking of it? What I wished to say was this, that if I get better or worse, as long as I live, and to the last moment of life, I shall remember with an emotion which cannot change its character, all the generous interest and feeling you have spent on me, wasted on me, I was going to write. But I would not provoke any answering, and in one obvious sense, it need not be so. I never shall forget these things, my dearest friend, nor remember them more coldly. God's goodness, I believe in it, as in his sunshine here, which makes my head ache a little, while it comes in at the window and makes most other people gayer. It does me good, too, in a different way. If you doubt that I am the invalid Elizabeth Barrett, you're the problem. I just had a huge soliloquy about the sun. I have read this part of her letter, certainly. But not this morning. And that is how ancient wisdom comes forth. Now, this is the second part. All I observed concerning yourself was the combination, which not an idiom in chivalry could treat grammatically as a thing common to me and you, inasmuch as everyone who has known me for half a day may know that, if there is anything peculiar in me, it lies for the most part in an extraordinary deficiency in this and this and this. There is no need to describe what. Only nuns of the strictest sect of the nunneries are rather wiser on some points and have led less restricted lives than I have in others. And if it had not been for my carpet work, quote unquote. Well, and do you know that I have, for the last few years, taken quite to despise book knowledge in its effect on the mind? I mean, when people live by it, as most readers by profession do, cloistering their souls under these roofs made with hands, when they might be under the sky. Nature. Some people grow dark and narrow and low with all their pains. How much worse is it? And you don't need me to answer this question. How much worse is it when it's not even books and nature? It's not nature at all. It's people sitting in buildings, looking at screens 100% of the time, and then going home or staying home and fighting with everyone. The reason that you're fighting is because you're not reading and doing nature and dwelling. You're subsisting in a world that brings you nothing but hate. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovered.